Ah, sports card collecting. Once that weird thing your brother or dad did, maybe you went to that corner mom and pop store down the street. Well, that hobby is big business. And it was never bigger than in the pandemic, where on eBay alone, nearly $1 billion in cards were sold. But we're not here to talk about present day. We're here to go back to the 80s, baby, where wax was plenty, baseball cards were printed by the millions, and we just couldn't get enough. I don't care if I ever get back and it's born in the USA. Wait, sorry, got carried away. Back to the story. Collecting in the 80s and 90s also wasn't as flashy as it is today. All these parallels, these one-of-ones, autograph cards, those things didn't exist.
But you think the investment aspect is good for baseball cards?
Oh, just for rookies, yeah. So if you come up with the rookie cards, the only cards right now, you're going to make money off it, because now the way they put out cards now, and the millions, no cards are worth money unless you're going to be mistake cards, or they're going to be they're a rookie.
Mistake cards. That unknown wasteland that was the true hallmark of a completionist collector. And today, we're going to talk about possibly the most famous mistake/error card in existence. The Bill, call him Billy if you're nasty, Ripken error card.
You know, it's 20 years ago.
But it's a great story.
20 years ago, Cal played that prank on me. No, I'm just kidding. Come on now. You know what? When that first
quick summary, Billy. Just give a quick summary here.
The quick summary? Geez, can I get any more on the record than this? It was a heavy R161 bat.
Yeah.
And I wrote it on there. I don't know why I chose that phrase.
You put F?
Face. On it.
Yeah.
And it was designated as my batting practice bat. So when you're looking in the grocery carts full of bats, all the knobs sticking out, and if I'm hitting in a group 445 and my dad is throwing the group, right? And it's 444 and I'm still sitting in my chair in the locker room, I know I've got a minute to get out there. I don't want to spend any time looking for this bat. So I could find it easy. It stuck out like a sore thumb, and I could make my group on time. That picture was taken in Boston. Take my first round of BP. I throw my bat to the third base side because we're on the third base side. I run around the bases. I pick my bat up waiting for round two, tap on the shoulder. Can I take your picture? I go, sure. Boom, take it. And then I hear about it in January, because that's when the cards came out. So I get a phone call from Rick Vaughn, who's now the Tampa Bay Rays PR guy, and he says, we got a problem.
The 1989 infamous Bill Ripken baseball card with the hidden "not safe for work" message on it makes for quite the story. So let's get into it. Nowadays, sports cards often go by a specific formula when it comes to design. More often than not, you'll find an athlete's action shot front and center, plus an eye-catching design to go along with it. But back in the day, as the junk wax era was at its peak, and unfortunately my collection was at its peak, there were more cards that defied this formula, much to the shock and sometimes appreciation of collectors. One such example of bucking the conventional trend was the 1989 Fleer baseball card of Bill Ripken. With just one glance at it, hobbyists know how different the cards were from this time to the era that we're living in right now. When one thinks of the 1980s, some of the cards that come to mind involve Michael Jordan, Ken Griffey Jr., Wayne Gretzky, Jerry Rice, amongst others. But among all these sports cards, there's one that stands out from the crowd for, maybe the wrong reason. Bill Ripken's 1989 Fleer baseball card. The 1989 Fleer is known quite well as junk by today's standards, but it had some standouts. Bill Ripken's card, though, was the one that set this set apart from the rest. What should have been an ordinary baseball card with a player front and center gained notoriety over the years and was white hot during 1989. If you squint right where the bat ends, 2 words are inscribed on it. Ace.
What's your profanity?
Of course, people back then lost their absolute minds over it, since this was one of the first instances of outrageousness in the sports card industry. I remember pulling this card at 9 years old and seeing my dad turn 3 shades of red when I asked him what it meant. All right, I was sheltered, so sue me. As soon as word got out of Ripken's troll-worthy card, dedicated and casual collectors alike were on the hunt for it. It even got to a point where ads were being placed on newspapers that signified interest to buy the sports card. In such a short amount of time, well, Fleer was faced with pressure to do something about the fiasco. The card company was caught between a rock and a hard place because they had already sent out boxes of this product to countless shops across the United States. In response, they produced a new batch that covered the part of the card that contained the profanity. There's the scribble, the circle scribble, the white scribble, the black box rounded left edge, the black box square left edge, so many variations that even a website that was devoted to the card simply gave up. The most valuable version was supposed to be the one with whiteout manually applied to the card by Fleer employees, even though 30 years later, nobody's really sure if this story is legitimate. They're just apocryphal. This was supposed to be the rarest variation, but to be sure, it turns out that any dingus with correctional fluid can make his or her own version. So it's almost impossible to tell the frauds from the actual versions, if actual versions even exist. Sales of packs, boxes, and cases of Fleer cards went through the roof, with card shops jacking up prices to meet the demand. It's almost as if this was an intentional mistake. Created the height of the big dumb baseball card collecting market.
What did Cal say?
Senior or junior?
Oh, boy. I'm going to go senior.
Senior wasn't real happy. Senior defended his son and swears that the card company saw it, enhanced it, and produced it for their own gratification.
Wow.
And I agreed with him.
But that couldn't be, right? Well, Bill Ripken thought so. The first major newspaper article about the card was from Tim Kirkchin in the Baltimore Sun, and it included this quote from Ripken himself. Bill Ripken hates this card and thinks Fleer was in on it. Ripken talked to Darren Rovell about a decade ago, but that he's not a fan of being associated with it. It's almost as if he wished on a monkey paw to stop being known as Cal Ripken Jr.'s brother, and the finger curled shut. Oh no, you won't be known for being your brother's brother. Don't you worry. On the one hand, I get it. Do you know how hard it is to make it to the major leagues? Even if your dad is the manager and your brother's the superstar, it's incredibly hard. There's a baseline of talent that I can't even fathom. At any point of his major league career, Bill Ripken could have walked into a D1 field and completely dominated against players who were born and bred to play baseball at a ludicrously high level. It was his life, something he spent thousands and thousands of grueling hours practicing and training for. And now he's known for a bad word. That's after years of being known as the brother of one of the biggest legends ever to play the sport. Screw that. On the other hand, the card is extremely rad, and I don't understand running from it. There are hundreds of thousands of baseball cards in the world. One of them has on the front. That's amazing, and I'm extremely jealous. Over 30 years after it was released, the 1989 Fleer Bill Ripken continues to be one of the most sought-after error cards on the market. A Gem Mint PSA 10 copy of this error card is going for around $600, while PSA 9s are at the $100 level. The highest raw copy on eBay sold for about $90. Still, it's either the highlight of the big dumb baseball card boom or the low light, unless it's both somehow at the same time. There was a swear word on a baseball card, and for a few months, everybody went wild for it. 30 years later, we're still talking about it. It was a transformative moment for anyone young enough to be in the generation that was sufficiently shocked and awed by it. We didn't have phones to pull out of our pockets to watch Logan Paul giggle and search for corpses in Japan. We had the base card.
I think it's really funny.
Very funny.
So it's funny is that many people made up stories that he was it was a practical joke, and then they got him pretty good. But the fact of the matter is, he wrote it. I mean, he used to write things on the bottom of his knob of his bat so he could find the bat.
Right.
And so, because bats sit in a big barrel sometimes, and you have numbers that all look the same, he would write expressions on it. And the expressions were innocent in the beginning, and then they started to get a little bit less innocent. And when he grabbed his bat, and one of the card companies asked, "Hey, Billy, how about a shot for Fleer or Don Ross or Topps?" He put his bat on his shoulder, and they took a picture, and it just so happened that the what he wrote became visible to the card. So I guess we'll dispel any of these rumors. He wrote it.
Yeah.
I will say, though, he used to write in this thin Sharpie, not a thick Sharpie.
Interesting.
But when it was on the card, it seemed like it was thick.
It's very visible.
So I'm wondering if it was it might have been enhanced for the collectible.
Interesting.
Oh, so you might want to research that.